You know, there are some stories you hear that just stop you cold. They don't ask for your attention, they take it. And for me, one of those stories was the story of Prophet Ibrahim, which y'all might know as Abraham. Now, I grew up in church, man. I know the name Abraham. We used to sing Father Abraham had many sons, clapping our hands, marching around Sunday school. But see, I never really heard the story the way Muslims tell it. I never sat down and thought about what that man actually went through, the kind of faith it took to do what he did. And when I did, it shook me. Because this story, it ain't just about a sacrifice. It's about the kind of trust in God that'll make you question your whole definition of belief. Let me tell you what I learned. Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, was a man chosen by God, tested again and again. This man wasn't born into comfort. His own people worshiped idols. His father made him. So here's Ibrahim, a young man looking around like, y'all praying to rocks. He started asking, who really made me? Who made the stars, the moon, the sun? That right there already tells you something. Faith don't start with comfort, it starts with questions. And I love that part because I can relate. I spent a lot of years asking God questions. Lord, why this? Why now? Why me? And sometimes the answer don't come right away. But see, Ibrahim kept looking, kept thinking, till he found the truth that there's only one God, and everything else we bow to is just distraction. Now fast forward a little. This man had one dream all his life, to have a child. He got old, his wife got old. It looked impossible. But God don't work on human calendars, y'all. When he decides it's time, it's time. So Allah blessed Ibrahim with a son, Ishmael. Imagine that joy. Imagine holding a miracle baby when everybody said it couldn't happen. And then here come the test. One night, Ibrahim has a dream. And in that dream, God commands him to sacrifice his own son. Now, I don't care who you are. That'll make your heart stop. And the thing that hits me hardest is Ibrahim knew that dream was real. He didn't brush it off like some late night nightmare. He woke up heart pounding, but face steady. And he told his boy. And you know what that boy said? He said, Father, do what you've been commanded. You'll find me patient. Man, that line broke me. Because if you're a parent, you already know there ain't no test harder than your child. You can lose money, lose jobs, lose pride, but your child, that's your heart walking outside your body. And yet, this father and this son both said yes. Not because they didn't love each other, but because they love God more. See, that's where most of us fall short. We say we believe, but the moment God asks for something that hurts, we start negotiating. Lord, can we compromise? Can I give you half of it? But Ibrahim didn't negotiate. He trusted. And that's when it hit me. This story ain't about God wanting to sacrifice. It's about showing the world what real submission looks like. When Ibrahim laid that boy down, tears in his eyes, knife trembling in his hand, he had already passed the test. Because faith isn't proven by the result, it's proven by the intent. And right there, as he's about to do it, God stops him, says, you fulfilled the vision, then replaces the boy with a ram. That moment, it's like God saying, see, I never wanted your pain, I wanted your heart. And man, that's when I sat back and said, okay, Lord, I get it now. Because all my life, I thought faith was about blessings, about what you get for believing. But this story taught me something else. Faith ain't about what you get. It's about what you're willing to give up when God asks. Sometimes he don't want the thing. He wants to see if you're holding it tighter than him. And when I learned that's why Muslims celebrate Eid al-Adha, the Feast of Sacrifice, I understood it deeper. They're not just killing an animal. They're remembering the moment a man proved love for God above everything else. They feed the poor. They share. They celebrate obedience. That's a message for everybody. Muslim, Christian, whoever, we all got something we're afraid to put on the altar. Our ego, our habits, our control, our pride. The real question is, when God says give it up, what's your answer? Now, let me tell you something. When I sat with that story for a while, I realized it ain't just some ancient tale. It's a mirror that shows you what's really sitting in your heart. See, we all love to say, I got faith, but faith ain't real till it's tested. And sometimes that test ain't the storm outside, it's the storm inside. Prophet Ibrahim's test was his son. For you, it might be your ego, your addiction, that relationship you know God been telling you to walk away from. It's that one thing you keep saying, God, I'll give you everything but this. And that's the very thing he's going to ask for. Because faith, real faith, don't live in the easy stuff. It lives in the breaking point. Now imagine Ibrahim walking up that hill, his boy right beside him, no excuses, no hesitation, just trust. That image, man, has stuck with me like a scar on my soul. You know how we always want to understand why before we obey? Like, Lord, tell me how this ends first and then I'll do it. That's not obedience. That's negotiation. But Ibrahim didn't ask why. He said yes, and then he saw why. And that's when I realized obedience brings clarity, not the other way around. You know how many times I almost missed my blessings because I was too busy trying to understand God instead of trusting him. Sometimes you can't see the reason yet because the reason ain't supposed to be seen, it's supposed to be lived. Now, I'll tell you something that really got me when I studied Islam. Muslims don't just tell this story, they live it. Every year during Hajj, millions of people walk that same valley, retracing those steps. And when they throw those stones at the pillars representing the devil, it's symbolic. It's saying, I reject the whispers that tell me not to trust God. That's powerful. That's physical faith, not just words, action. And when I watch those clips, millions of people dressed the same, no status, no jewelry, no titles, just believers standing in the same desert, crying, praying, remembering one man's obedience. I felt something. Because the world today, we don't celebrate obedience, we celebrate rebellion. We cheer for the ones who say, I do what I want. But the story of Ibrahim says, do what's right, even when it hurts. And let me tell you, that's a message we all need in marriage, in business, in temptation. You got to know when to say, I ain't choosing comfort, I'm choosing conviction. That's what submission really means. And that word submission, it scared me for a long time, sounded like losing, sounded weak, but now I get it. Submission to God ain't weakness, it's freedom. It's like taking a heavy bag off your back and saying, Lord, I'm tired of carrying this on my own. That's what Ibrahim did. He said, God, I trust you more than I trust myself. And the way God responded, he didn't just save his son, he honored that act for eternity. Every year across every continent, billions of Muslims say Allahu Akbar, and remember that obedience, that man's faith rippled across time. Now you think about that. What if your faith, your one act of obedience, could echo like that? What if the way you trusted God in your storm gave somebody else courage in theirs? See, you don't know who's watching your faith. You don't know who's learned how to believe just because you didn't quit. That's what hit me hardest, because sometimes the sacrifice ain't just about you. It's about everybody who's going to see it and say, if they could trust God through that, maybe I can too. And I'll tell you something else. The more I studied, the more I realized Ibrahim wasn't just tested once. He was tested many times. He had to leave his wife and child in the middle of a desert. No food, no water. Just faith. And when he walked away, he didn't even turn back. Not because he didn't love them, but because he loved God's command more. Now that right there, that's another kind of pain. That's not the pain of losing, that's the pain of obeying. And sometimes that's the hardest kind, because obedience often looks like loss before it feels like victory. But see, every time Ibrahim obeyed, God elevated him. He became Khalilullah, the friend of God. And when I heard that title, I said, Lord, if obedience makes you call somebody friend, then that's what I want to be, because that's the goal, man. Not fame, not money, not applause. It's to live a life where the Creator looks down and says, that's my friend. Now, I don't know about you, but that hit me different, because you can't fake friendship with God. You can't act holy on Sunday and then ghost him all week. You either walk with him or you don't. And that's what Ibrahim's story really teaches. Walk with God, even when you don't see the map. You know, when I finished learning about Prophet Ibrahim, I sat there for a while just thinking, because it made me look at my own life. And I ain't going to lie to you, man, it humbled me. See, we live in a world where we keep score with the wrong things. Cars, followers, bank accounts, we call that success. But Ibrahim didn't have none of that. What he had was faith. And that faith outlived every dynasty, every empire, every dollar ever printed. That's when it hit me. Obedience builds legacy. Ego builds nothing. Now, I've been blessed. I've had the money, the fame, the TV shows, but every time I tried to hold on too tight, every time I said, God, I got this, that's when I lost my peace. And every time I say, God, I trust you, even if it don't make sense right now, that's when doors open. Because peace don't come from control, it comes from surrender. And that's what Prophet Ibrahim's story is really about. It's not about a man losing his son, it's about a man finding his purpose. And when I looked around the world, I realized Muslims don't just remember his obedience, they celebrate it. They teach their kids that obedience is not weakness, it's strength with humility, it's power that bows. And I thought to myself, man, imagine if we raised our kids like that. Imagine if every father told his son, greatness ain't in defying God, it's in trusting him when you're scared. That's what Ibrahim did. He passed the test, not by power, but by surrender. And that surrender changed the world. Now, I ain't no preacher. I ain't sitting here trying to convert nobody. But I'll tell you this, when I started listening to these stories from Islam, they didn't just sound religious, they sounded real, like life lessons you could live by no matter what faith you got. Because all of us, Muslim, Christian, whoever, we all get tested. We all get those moments where God says, you trust me or not? And you can't fake that answer. You can post all the quotes you want. You can shout, God is good, when the bills are paid. But when the storm comes, when it's just you, the pain and silence, that's when he finds out what your yes really means. And I'll be honest, that's where I met God the most. Not on my stage, not in my success, but in my surrender. In them moments where I said, Lord, I can't, but you can. And you know what I realized? That's the same spirit Ibrahim had. That's the same spirit that carried him through every test. That's why his name's still alive while kings' names are forgotten. See, God don't remember fame, he remembers faith. And man, if that ain't something worth learning, I don't know what is. So now when I wake up, I say a little prayer. I say, Lord, don't make me rich, make me righteous. Don't make me famous, make me faithful. Because when it's all said and done, ain't nobody taking their money or their mansion to the grave. But your obedience, that follows you. That's eternal. And that's the message Prophet Ibrahim left for all of us. Sacrifice ain't lost. It's love in its highest form. It's choosing God over comfort, truth over ego, and heaven over applause. And I'm telling you, man, if we live like that, if we walk with that kind of trust, this world would look a whole lot different. If the story of Ibrahim teaches us one thing, it's that faith ain't supposed to be comfortable. It's supposed to be real. And real faith gonna stretch you, it's gonna scare you sometimes, but it'll also save you. See, obedience don't always make sense when you're standing in it. But when you look back, when you see what God was building through your pain, you're gonna realize he never took nothing from you that wasn't holding you back anyway. Prophet Ibrahim, he didn't just give up his son. He gave up his fear, he gave up control. And that's why God replaced his loss with legacy. And maybe that's the message we need today. Stop trying to write your own story and let God hold the pen, because he know how to turn sacrifice into purpose. He know how to take what you think is the end and make it the start of something divine. So wherever you are, whatever you're facing, just remember, every test got a lesson and every surrender got a blessing waiting behind it. That's the truth. And man, that's faith.